Welcome to this episode of the Lifework podcast. We are joined again today by Professor Janna Himschoot. And in between these episodes, we had a conversation in which you disclosed something that I found just incredibly interesting, that in high school, you and your husband were dating, and he had a sawmill in high school.
Yes.
How does a high school student own and operate a sawmill? How does that happen?
He did it after school. He purchased it. He had a loan. He got a loan. He bought the sawmill, and he bought timber tracks. And then he would go and cut the cedar. He was doing cedar logs. Yeah, and he'd cut cedar and run them through his mill, and he'd sell them. And I managed his money for him.
How long did he do this?
Just for a few years, a couple years, I would say. And he sold the mill. He's back logging again now after all this time.
I hope one day to meet this fella.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting just to see a guy that has a very similar life pilgrimage as you do.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the money manager. He's the business guy. You're
Yes.
farming. He's sawmilling. You graduate high school. You get married. You go to school. You get your accounting degree.
Yep.
And then what?
So I got my first corporate accounting job while I was finishing up my degree. So I worked that job and finished up my education at the same time. And I was expecting my first child.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So I graduated in May of 97, and Austin was born in July of 97.
Where did you do your undergrad?
At ASU,
Okay.
Jonesboro. And I commuted from Hardy.
Where did you get this first job? What was it?
It was in Hardy.
Okay.
It was a corporation, and I was their accountant at that time. They didn't really coin it as controller, but that's what I was. It was a very small corporation at that time, and it grew very quickly. It was a tech company, just on the cusp of the 2000s, tech industry, the boom. That's where I started.
And how long did you do this?
12 years.
12 years. So what led to the pivot from that? Where did you go from doing that?
So we were involved in a merger with a publicly traded corporation back in 2001-ish, 2002. Those years are a little fuzzy for me. So we merged with a publicly traded corporation that did a similar thing. We were a title searching technology company. And I had 3 children by then. I had 3 babies in 4 years. So there was a lot of, we need you to fly to Houston, and we need you to go to Nashville. And that was not the lifestyle that I had envisioned for myself. I was a mom first. And so I knew that it was time for me to do something different. And I had already gotten an idea in my mind that I did want to teach. Because I can remember talking to my parents and just saying, I have so much that I want students to know when they're in school so that they make the most of the opportunity. And so that's when I decided I need to get a broader spectrum of experience. I need to do something different. So I taught myself medical coding, medical terminology, and I got a job with a local healthcare facility, and I started doing their billing and did a little office management, record management, that kind of thing. That was my next stage. I did that for almost 8 years, and then I got my degree in that time.
So we're 20 years into your professional career, correct? When, where, how, what did the calling? I have 2 questions. I'm trying to figure out the best way. The move into higher education and a sense of God shaping these work experiences to be more than just work, but to be platforms for kingdom gospel purposes. When did all this begin to coalesce?
So while I was still at my corporation accounting job, I started feeling uneasy, like this is not where I was supposed to be. But I'm not one that changes quickly. And I felt like God was leading me to move on. But I'm not as quick to be obedient as I should, just because by nature I'm very cautious. and very thoughtful when I make a decision, especially one of that magnitude. So it really took some time for me to finally make that move to pivot. But it was at that moment when I made that change, I thought, I want to teach and I need to know how to do other things besides just corporate accounting. And so that's why I decided healthcare. I also wanted to pour into the lives of people. So in corporate accounting, I helped people who had lots of money make more money. And I was very good at it. But there's no fulfillment there. And so when I worked in healthcare, I advocated for my patients. So I was able to work with claims. Instead of just saying, oh, that claim didn't go through, I'll just bill the patient. No, I would fight the insurance company to get them to pay on behalf of my patient. So that provided a level of fulfillment for me. And then as I was there, time moved on. My children were getting a little bit older, a little bit more self-sufficient. I had one driving, which was great. And I just felt like it was time to make the move to teach. And I knew God was leading me to that. And
how did you know that?
I knew it. I don't know how to explain that was the next step. I can tell you that while I was at the doctor's office, I was exploring degrees because I had to pursue an MBA that was primarily online just because of my life responsibilities, because I was still going to work. I had kids going 3 different directions, playing ball, literally, and so I had a very tight schedule. Well, one of my former employees that worked for me in the accounting department was the outreach coordinator from Missouri State. And so I reached out to her, and they had just started an online MBA. And this was in the summer, in July. And she says, we're down to the wire, but I can get you in. Here's what you need to do. And so I had to sit for the GMAT exam.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called around, and there was one spot open, the last opportunity for me to take the exam in order to start in the fall. And so I was able to go to Jonesboro and take that exam, no preparation at all. I just sat down and took it. And I said, Lord, if this is what I'm supposed to do, then you give me the score I need. And he did. And so I passed that. And then I started taking classes in the fall.
And when did you finally move into teaching, and where?
So back to working with my dad.
Yes.
So I had, immediately after I completed my degree, I applied for a job at Missouri State West Plains, and which was the satellite campus for Missouri State in Springfield. And went and interviewed all day, gave my very first lecture ever in my entire life in front of a room full of professors. It was intimidating.
I bet it was.
And so interviewed with several different people. It literally took all day, this interview process. And given my history and my experiences, I assumed that I would get the job. Got the call, did not get the job. They chose someone over me. And I can remember having a real moment of just grief and frustration. And I'm just like, Lord, I thought I was on the right path. And, I guess I'm not good enough. And the message that I received in my heart was, no, you're not good enough, because it's not about you. It's about me. And so at that moment, I realized I needed a good dose of humility, and I got it. And so this journey that I was on was not anything about me. It was about him and where he wanted me to be. And then once I understood that, it changed my entire outlook. So didn't get that job. And during that time, prior to applying for that job, I was working as a professional tutor at Black River. So I did that for 3 semesters. Another humbling experience. My friend from church, Sissy Gray, whom you know,
Sissy,
yes. So she helped me connect with the Student Success Center there on campus about being a professional tutor. Well, they didn't need a business tutor; they needed a math tutor, and so they really wanted my dad. So we went and interviewed, both of us, and he said, "We're a package deal." So the only reason I got that job at BRTC was because my dad said, I'm not coming unless she comes, and they really wanted him. So the Lord said I needed another good dose of humility, and I got one. But we worked together for about 3 semesters, and he worked 1 semester without me after that. But we would drive to school together, and we would take our lunch, and we would eat lunch together, and we would share stories, and we would tutor together.
Back on the farm together, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're at BRTC,
Yes.
and then what?
So during that time is when I did that, applied for that job at Missouri State.
Okay.
So I'm constantly applying for positions, looking for openings, that kind of thing. I'm still working at the doctor's office too. So I'm doing both jobs.
You're a machine.
You have to be.
Yeah.
You really have to be. To live in a small town and make it work, you have to be. So yeah, I'm a hard worker. I come from that. And
You do.
I married that, and we raised our kids in that, and that's just how we all are.
So you're applying for jobs. You didn't get the one you thought you were
Didn't
going to
get
get.
the one I thought I was going to get, and just really devastated until I had that moment with the Lord. And I realized that this was part of my journey, was to be a professional tutor. Not only was it to teach me some humility, which it did, but it was also to teach me how to interact with students, because they reveal more of themselves to a tutor than they do to a professor. So I learned a lot about how students learn, what they're intimidated by, what kind of questions they ask, that kind of thing. So it was really a great learning experience. And I remember the moment I said, all right, if I'm not supposed to be a professor, I'm going to be the best professional tutor that I can be. And it was not that long after that I was checking all the local institutions, and I saw that there was a posting from Williams Baptist University for a business professor.
Oh.
And this was a 4-year institution. So I thought to myself, there's no way. I was assuming that I would get a job at a 2-year technical school. But you know what? I'm going to apply. So I did. And I came here and interviewed. Ken Startup kind of walked me through that process. We had some really great conversations. And I will never forget driving onto campus. And I just felt like, okay, now everything makes sense. And I knew at that moment that I was going to get the job, that this was where I was supposed to be. And I was not nervous at all. I was so nervous in the Missouri State position, but I wasn't nervous at all. And by the time I left, I did have a job offer, a tentative one, pursuant to the board.
Right, right.
But yeah, that day.
So I arrived here in 2018. Do you remember when we really got to know each other? Do you remember what that was?
You'll have to remind me what memory you're pulling from.
It was around 2019, 2020.
Okay.
We were on a task force together.
Yes.
You remember that? When we were first exploring the idea of pivoting.
Yes, to Williams Works.
And we took 2 or 3, I can't remember how many, field trips.
Yes.
To a sister institution that was Work Education Institution.
Yes.
That's when I first got to really know you. And I remember thinking 2 or 3 things. One, what an incredible professional educator. Number 2, what a woman of faith. Number 3, what a delightful personality, because we did have a few interesting, fun conversations in the van with others. We're all clustered together in that. But I remember thinking, she gets it. She understands the direction that we think the Lord is leading us in, the direction we need to go, but also the direction we get to go. So talk to me about, I never really asked you this before. So now's my chance. As you look back on that time, that season of when we were looking at doing what we're doing, what were you thinking? How did you feel about all of that? And how did you see that fitting not only for the school, but for you?
So I remember that trip very, very well. I remember being excited about what I saw, excited about the level of student engagement and their professionalism that I hadn't seen before, because they were performing at a very different level. So I was excited about that. I remember thinking, I just don't know if we can do this as fast as maybe Dr. Norman thinks that we can.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought it was a great idea, but my accounting conservative brain, we're conservative by nature.
Deliberate and thoughtful,
Yes.
methodical.
Yes. And that's how I would have done it, but we wouldn't be where we are now. So I think you need all of that.
Yeah.
You need all that kind of input
Yeah.
from all the different personalities.
So philosophically, setting aside the speed or lack of speed of the process, philosophically, what were your thoughts about that as a model that would fit us at Williams?
So in the business department especially, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was a perfect fit because that's what Heather Parson and I, my partner in crime, that's what we try to impart to our students is that hard work, that responsibility. So we were excited about getting that type of student back in the classroom.
Yeah.
So that's what we were looking forward to.
So here we are, well into that initiative, but also well into your career. What is possibly one of the more fulfilling parts of what you're currently doing in your ministry here at Williams?
Okay, that's an easy question. It's relationships with my students.
Okay.
Remember, I said at a very young age, I realized my calling was motherhood. And that's how I engage with my students, is to kind of be their mom. So I needed to grow and mature and raise adult children myself in order to be the type of professor that I wanted to be. And so all of those things in my life happened in the timing that they happened so that I could be the type of professor that I am right now. And that's just to be a mom to them when some of them maybe don't have one or their moms are far away and they need somebody right there. And that means love and encouragement and grace, but it also means structure and discipline and expectation and consequences. So I try to really keep that balance, and it's important to have that balance or you're not doing it right, in my opinion.
I think you're right. So I've asked several of your colleagues over the podcast this question. I'm going to throw it down on you and get your response. So from where you currently sit in this season of your life, taking what I would call an aspectual reflective view backward, what would this Janna say to the Janna of 8th and 9th grade? Maybe speaking from what you've learned now to what you didn't know then that you wish you had known, or maybe some insecurities, maybe some doubts or issues that from this position you would say, if I could talk to myself then, this is how I would encourage myself, challenge myself, or guide myself in those next steps of life.
So I would tell that Janna from way back when to trust the process. I wouldn't give her any hints or clues as to what was to come because the process is part of the whole journey. That's why we do it. And I wouldn't have learned the things that I learned and had the experiences that I experienced without the process. So I would just say, trust the process. You don't know what's coming, but trust the process.
Do you tell your students this?
Yes.
I figured you did.
I do. That's one of the things I'm going to put on my T-shirt one day when I have one is trust the process. Yeah.
So what's next for the Himschoot family? You told me your husband himself is building you a house.
Yes.
And is he retired from?
No, he's still working.
What does he do?
He's a logger now.
He's a logger.
Yeah.
Full circle back to the sawmill.
Yes, back to the original days because he farmed full time for several years, and he drove and did custom fertilizer for other farmers. Had a truck, and he did that. So he had and logging on the side there. So we had 2 Schedule C's and a Schedule F there for several years. But now he's back down to just logging, and we don't have cattle anymore. So I guess he's bored. So he's building me a house.
Well, I hope it's a beautiful house. You deserve it.
Yeah. Well, it's what we need at this time in our life. And remember, as I said before, my expectations in life are very simple. It's faith and family and, impacting lives of others. And so as long as I can do that, I'm doing really good.
That's a good place to stop. Thank you, Janna, for being on our podcast.
Thanks.
You are appreciated.
Well, we appreciate you as well.